Thank you. So I'm here today to talk about imposter syndrome. Thought I'd break the ice with a little picture. It's something that affects everyone in tech, and it's kind of been getting more prevalent in today's society. So first I'll do a little bit more introduction on myself. I'm Chris Laughlin. I'm a lead UI engineer in Rapid7. We're hiring, as always. I contributed to the documentation of an open source project once, so now I'm officially an open source contributor. And I wrote one SitePoint article, so now I'm officially a SitePoint author. I like to say I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. And that's another proud photo of myself during my worst hangover of my life. So what is imposter syndrome? So we have sorry, let's get ahead. So imposter syndrome, or also known as imposter phenomenon or fraud syndrome, is a pattern in which people doubt their abilities. They kind of think to themselves like, I'm a fraud, I don't belong here, I don't know what I'm doing. And especially in the tech community, we're made to believe that people are rock stars and we have to learn and advance and grow so quickly. It can be easily turned into this pattern. You can start self-doubt. I have a little kind of cartoon that like illustrates, a modern day example of imposter syndrome. So when I started looking into imposter syndrome, I kind of knew this affected me. When I found out what the actual term was, I kind of thought, well, how is this affecting other people, and what's kind of going on in the tech scene for this? So I looked at the Google trending chart for the search term imposter syndrome. For some reason, it only goes back to 2004, and I kind of noticed two peaks. So we can see the first peak is February 2014 and March 2014. And I was kind of thinking, well, my uneducated, non-data science mind, why was there a peak here? The only thing I can think is it's close to review time. We're all kind of sitting there thinking, am I going to get that raise? Am I going to get that promotion? And then we start doubting our abilities because someone else got that pay bump, they got that senior title, that kind of thing. And we can see it's constantly spiking, and it's getting growing, and we can see it's getting higher. And the reason around that is probably there's more noise in the tech scene. It's not just the old days before we had broadband where nobody really spoke too much or bragged about what they were doing online. So I kind of want to chat a little bit more like my story and how I identify with this and how imposter syndrome affects me in the world of tech. So I started as like a junior developer, as we all do, and I guess you're not expected to be great. You're not expected to be a rock star. Like on your first day, you're not going to SSH on the remote server, edit a file in Vim, restart all the processes on that server just to change the title of a HTML site. Not that I would ever do that now, so still probably couldn't. So I kind of, the shoulders of giants, working with senior people, got better and better. I started working in, how I like to kind of term it, is like a little pond with some big fish. These were the kind of like, your seniors, your principals, your architects. And I noticed a lot where people were flexing their like tech muscles, if you could kind of say. And this kind of puts doubt and makes other sort of junior developers question their abilities and their skills. Like, this guy's so cool, he can do all this, he's knocking out big ass features, and I can never be that good. I'll always have to be in that person's shadow. So I kind of took that lesson on board. I was like, okay, well, just keep on advancing, keep pushing, keep trying to learn that next thing. That was always the goal: become that senior person, become that go-to guy for some sort of technology. And then I moved to a bigger pond with even bigger fish, because no matter what, you're always going to be progressing and moving on somewhere where there's a lot of people doing better than you, which is a good thing. I'm not hating on the fact that there's people in your company that are better than you. You need to learn from somebody. But then I was back to stage one. I had to readjust, figure out what my abilities and where I placed myself in that company. Then the doubt came back. Well, am I good enough? Like, these guys are, putting stuff on Amazon and in the cloud and writing this and writing that, and all these terms I never knew understood. And I was like, well, I'm back to square one. I'm the fraud again. I don't know what I'm doing. And then it got even worse because I discovered Twitter and Medium. So there was a talker that I seen, they had a Medium article. Medium's a great site. I usually find the answer to all my debugging problems with Medium, or whenever I implement that feature, it's because I followed the steps on a Medium article. But when you read all these things and you see these developers posting like 100 tweets a day, releasing libraries once a week, you're like, where do they get the time? How did they get that skill? How did they get that ability? I could never be as good as that. And then the doubt, the imposter syndrome, the fraud kind of kicks in. It's like, well, I'm never going to be that rock star. There's always that one person ahead of me doing this and doing that. And I think it sounds negative and terrible, but it's something you have to battle through. And I kind of took that as a challenge and to push myself and make those kind of targets that I wanted to achieve. So I kind of want to go through some of like the core examples of imposter syndrome and like some kind of methods and abilities and ways we can like tackle that. So we have perfectionism, overworking, and discounting praise. So if we look at perfectionism first, either you've been there or you've seen someone be there, and it's like, every day you're like, so have you got task A complete? It's not quite there yet. I needed a little bit more work. It's not perfect. It's the kind of person, like I'm a web developer, I work with JavaScript and stuff, but it's people who are, pixel pushers. I've heard the term where you just want to get it perfectly responsive. It has to look great in every environment. You can't ship it until it's perfect. And it's kind of, you set yourself with a unrealistic, unattainable goal. And how can you achieve perfectionism? I always like to use the term like there's no such thing as perfect. I'm not perfect. This conference isn't perfect. That kind of thing, because perfection doesn't exist. You can have an ideal vision in your mind of what perfectionism is, but you can never achieve it. And you get yourself into a pattern of I can't finish this until it's done, but there is no done. And this feeds into imposter because you feel like you can't do it because everyone else does it perfect and you're not doing it perfect. So we can look into kind of some approaches or ways to fix perfectionism. It'll never go away like all of these. So take your mistakes in stride. If you never made a mistake in your life, then something's desperately wrong. I always like to say, like, no one learned from successes. They learned from mistakes and failures. You have to do something wrong to be able to figure out how to do it right. We live in an age of code where, bugs exist. I go on the websites all the time and I see a bug and I don't think, oh, I'm going to stop using this website. In most cases, it's because it's Amazon or something. I have to use that site if I want to buy, that beard oil or something like that. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. So you take those mistakes, learn from them, use them as a tool to grow. Push yourself to act before you're ready. It's another term I heard was coined as like push small and push often, or something around that line. Where like always be committing your code, continuous deployment, that kind of thing. There's companies I hear of and they deploy code 50 times a day, and then they're not pushing out the next biggest feature for users. They're pushing out little changes, little updates, and little improvements. And you kind of need to take that in your stride and say, like, just get it out the door. There's no point, having this perfect feature and you've missed the boat, or this perfect feature but the customer didn't actually want it. Where if you give them a half-assed version of the feature, they might say, oh yeah, this is actually really cool, or we don't need this, or what if it did this? And you can change and adapt on that kind of process. And another kind of one is like, we've all got a list probably somewhere of blog posts you should write, or that little side project, or that app that you want to build. Push yourself to actually do those. You might sit and think, well, I can't build that project because it needs to be perfect. I can't release this library. The tests aren't complete. That kind of stuff. Not everyone in this room is going to be building something that's going to go on Product Hunt and make like $20 million and get bought by Facebook. Chances are it's going to be, the next to-do list that's free and easy to use. Build something, hack it together, throw it out. You'll get a ton of retweets. If I see it, I'll retweet it for you. And you can learn from that and build upon it. So it's not the kind of case of like, I can't touch this, I can't push this out. So overworking. I suppose actually a disclaimer. I do all these every day, all the time, because I have imposter syndrome. Overworking, I'm so guilty of doing this. I seen like it was a cartoon, and well, I say I couldn't find the image. I didn't bother searching for it, because I'm a perfectionist. You know, I couldn't finish my slides, and it was, you know, the ideal of taking your laptop home every night from work, and it's a guy taking his backpack on the bus, and then he's sitting at a dinner table with a backpack, and then it cuts to him in bed, sleeping beside his backpack. It's like, you know, I think, bar like my phone and wallet, I have my backpack on me at all times. And we're doing this thing where we're always coming home, we're taking our work home, we're working late. And this is kind of one of the most serious ones, because it's not just an effect on your mental health, it's an effect on your physical health. So like, I've seen it before, and I've been in that position where you have a deadline or you have a feature and you're like, I can't come in the next day and say it's not done, I'm gonna bust an all-nighter, get it done. It's 3 in the morning, you're still hacking away at this thing. You know, your eyes are blurring, you're probably not even looking at your screen anymore, you're looking at the window, pretending to type on this windowsill. And you come in the next day and you're like, 1, my code doesn't run because I was writing gibberish, I was up all night. 2, I'm so tired now. And you end up burning out. You can never keep chasing that late night, because for every night you work late, you're tired the next day, you don't do enough work, so you work late again. And it has a real strong effect on your mental and physical. And the physical kind of thing where you're gonna be more prone to getting sick, and you're just gonna be burnt out and tired all the time. And the mental side of things, you then lose interest. Like for example, myself, like I got burnt out a few times, and I would take 1 or 2 days off work to kind of get back in gear. If I didn't take those days, I'd come in and say, well, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to zone out. I'm going to sit on Facebook and Reddit all day and do nothing. But I love my project. I love the work that I do, and that's kind of pushing me away from what I'm doing. And it's a very hard one to tackle. But there's some kind of things we can do. So like, one is, don't take your work home. It's hard to give that advice, I know, because I take my laptop home every night. But I have a valid excuse. When my fiancée started her own home business, she stole my MacBook, so now I don't have a MacBook to use at home. And I still like to do my own personal development, which my company has no idea that I use their equipment for. And it's not like this would be recorded or anything, so they'll find out, but it should be okay. And she's a graphic designer, if you're interested, and she's for hire as well. But set those barriers and those limits. Like if you do like to do development outside of your time, use your own computer. Keep the work laptop in work. Get into the habit of locking it in the drawer at night, and set those limits, and when you should be working at home and you shouldn't be working at home. Put work into perspective. This is a really important one as well. It's kind of like, is that, that feature for the customer, say it's an input like modal where you put in your username, your email address, you can collect that for GDPR or something like that, I'm not sure. Is that more important than, going out to the gym, spending time with your family, seeing your friends? Like a really grim, when I was practicing this talk, and I had a sentence, and I kind of thought after, this is a really grim kind of example, but you can work every night and every weekend, and you can build all these great features, and you can get the promotion and the responsibility and all the praise and work. And then you retire, you're like, awesome, let's go out for drinks with my friends. And like, you don't have any friends because you work the whole time. And all your friends in work, they're all out with their families and they're all having fun. Like, it's a grim thought, but that's the extreme. Like, the chances I'll be working all the time, so you can go out drinks with me. And then the last one is take control of your workload. It's so easy to overcommit and take on too much work. And again, I'm guilty of this as well. And this is a really hard one to do, because it's not just your perspective and your mindset, it's your manager or your team's mindset. You need to work with them to say, no, we can't achieve that in this week. We can't do this, we can't do that. We're not the rock stars you think we are. It may take you like a week to do a task, but are you going to be achieving the right things at the right time? And it's one of the things you have to work with your manager, you have to push back, you have to fight that kind of, that workload coming on top of you. And again, being a manager and being managed before, like, I'm guilty of overcommitting and overthinking what I can do and what my teams can achieve. And it's a slow process that you work with and deal with. And it varies for every person. You have some people who are like, yeah, give me everything, I want to do this, I want to do that. But you need to manage that and take those before points into perspective as well. Give getting all that work done may be great now, but you might have more fun going out and having time with, drinking with your friends. It's the best pastime there is. And then the kind of last example is discount and praise, and this is one I see in Belfast so much, and I'm guilty of it too. And the prime example will be after this talk. So you're in work, and I don't want to use Bob as the fake name because I've worked with a guy called Bob, but so Bob's knocked out this feature and he's done really well, and his manager comes over and he's like, "That's awesome, you're a rock star, you did so great." And Bob's like, no, I got lucky. I found the answer on Stack Overflow. It was nothing. Or, it wasn't me, it wasn't just me. Jill and John helped out. It was a whole team effort. And that's kind of saying, the compliment you give me, I don't want, or I don't deserve it. We're very easy to say, it wasn't our achievement. We got help from someone else, or we got lucky, or we just, it was just a lucky kind of thing. And I think a lot of people do this because there's like certain fears or interactions with praise. Like, people are very humble, and if you're not, then that's your own thing. People are very humble, and they fear praise in a kind of sense. Like, when I was looking at this, and I find I find it interesting, is like the fear of praise debt. If I get thanked, I have to return the favor. I have to thank someone back. And you always get that, oh, you did great, thanks. Oh, thanks. But you did great too. Oh, you were such a great manager, and that kind of thing. And, in not every case that needs to happen. So I thought praise debt was a very interesting one. Again, we have some sort of ways to tackle and deal with this. So you don't need to justify anything. You don't need to add anything. And that kind of tackles the point of, great work, Bob. You knocked it out of the park. Thanks. Don't need to say, so-and-so helped me too. And yeah, you can give praise when praise is due, but you don't need to justify your work by offloading the praise to someone else. And when someone praises you, they only expect a thank you. I imagine, that's probably a big head of myself. I imagine after the talk and someone's like, "Oh, it was a great talk." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I was so worried," or "No, it wasn't me. I was using research I found online." Whereas the right response is thank you. Take that praise in your stride and say, "Yeah, thanks. Cheers." And when I thank a speaker from today, because there's some amazing speakers here today, all I expect them to say is thank you. I don't need them to explain or give me an excuse of why they did so well. They did well, they made an achievement themselves. They don't need to discount that in any shape or form. And I guess a challenge to everyone here is to go out and thank that speaker who gave the talk. We give them a clap at the end and that kind of stuff. But validation means so much to people. And a simple great work, I really enjoyed that. Or tweet it if you don't want to talk to them and stuff like that. I think it's a kind of good thing to do. So on to the next kind of side of thing, and it's the community, especially in technology, is where we can not really fix imposter syndrome, but help it so much. I remember I noticed this whenever I started working in technology 8 or 10 years ago or something. And I started working as a junior developer, I was just saying, I kind of had my team, I had people I worked with, and it was great fun. And you could always go on the Stack Overflow, or you go on the Reddit, and you could find out information you needed to know. And then I discovered there's a local Slack workspace group for developers in Northern Ireland. And I kind of was seeing this, and I was like, this is really awesome. I didn't know what Slack was at the time. I was just an MSN Messenger back then. And I kind of logged in, and I seen people being friendly, sharing information, chatting to each other, being complimentary on people's work. People were showing off their little side projects or some cool function they wrote that day in work. I was like, this is really cool. I've never heard of this before. When I was in uni, they don't teach you to talk to people on Slack or search Stack Overflow, which they probably should. So I kind of seen that, and I was like, this is really awesome. And being able to have that direct communication all day with someone who works in the same industry, who works with the same things, and you kind of bouncing ideas off people. There's a lot of people here today that I've known and met through this Slack community. And the funny part is some of them I've never seen face to face. And it doesn't bother me because I know I can chat away them. We're all on the same mindset. We all love technology, and having that kind of community around that, it's strange and interesting. I always wonder in my head, like, is there a Slack out there for doctors that like they log in and share like stories about medicine and the newest injection technique? I think to me it seems like it's something very specific to technology, and having that network around you to kind of talk to people, engage with them, is so great. And like that kind of leads on to like the meetup scenes. Like I know every presentation they have a recommendation for a local meetup, which I think is awesome. Whenever I left that little pond and went to the big pond, I kind of wanted to break out my habits and do something new. And Belfast JS was there, and they had an open for a talk. And I was like, I'll submit a talk. I've never publicly spoke before. This will be nerve-wracking, but hopefully good. And I got up and I rambled. I had a few beers beforehand, which really helped. And I loved it. I was like, this is great. And afterwards, people were like, yeah, that was so interesting. Like, I never knew you could do this and do that. And I'm like, who are you? This is great. Like, all people love this topic that I was really interested and passionate about. And then, after that, I was like, I need to speak at this every month. Like, I have to be the #1 speaker in this. This is great. I love this validation, like the praise from it. Like, and having that someone say like, oh, that was really interesting. I've learned so much. Kind of taught me the idea of, well, if I taught that person something, I have knowledge about what I was doing. That was a justification. I'm not a fraud in this technology. Because even at that, like, it's, again, the tech community kind of thing, like, is there meetups for other things? Is there a meetup for horse jockeys where they like show off and discuss the latest diamond patterns for their jackets, that kind of stuff? I can't see it happening anywhere else. And it's something, if you haven't been to a meetup, definitely. And even this conference here, this is a great experience for like-minded people. You might be sitting in your job saying, oh, I'm writing Cobalt, but I really want to be writing JavaScript. Who am I going to talk to about this? Like, you're in a room full of people who use different technologies. You can engage and talk to them and get advice. So I kind of want to end on a couple of more kind of terms and techniques to combat this. So I'm not an expert in mental health. I'm not Dr. Fraser Crane. I can't sit you on the sofa and tell you how to fix your life. This is all brand new to me as well. But the one thing I do know, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to walk out of this room today and be like, I'm not an imposter. This is class. If you do, come back in and finish you can do another talk after this, and we'll all figure out how. It's something that's going to take time, and you need to work on that. And it's one of those things that's like, no, hang in there. It's going to get better. You have the community and everything around you. Use your weaknesses as your strengths. So, like, some of you may or may not know, like, I'm like heavily dyslexic. But working in code's great because we have spell check and all that kind of stuff. I don't write anything down anymore. I could just about write my name in this. That's the way it's around the other way. But I kind of I seen that as an issue at the start, and I was like, oh, I can't really type into Slack and all that kind of stuff. I'm sending emails. Like, in my previous employment, I was banned from sending the release email because instead of saying the release is now complete, I kept saying the release is not complete. And then 2 hours later, I would get an email saying, when's this going to be done? And cheekily reply, I told you already, it's done. So then I was like, well, how can I turn this weakness into strength? How can I combat this? I was like, well, I'll start a blog. Because I used to post blogs on the Reddit and get completely ripped apart because of my spelling and grammar. And I was like, well, I'll start a blog called The Dyslexic Developer. And I have free range to have spelling and grammar mistakes, because if it wasn't there, then the blog wouldn't make sense. So now I can just write gibberish and post it, and no one can get angry at me. And I don't have a commenting system on there on purpose. Remember your achievements. So this is like a really kind of strong one I always talk to people about. It's connected to the discount and praise. We're very easy to say, I haven't achieved anything in my life. Oh, I know, I got up lucky, I just just about got through uni. And it's the same with the whole learn from your mistakes. If you haven't had a mistake, something's wrong. But you need to remember your achievements. You might say to yourself, well, I haven't achieved anything. You could be a student or retired. You've achieved something in your life. You're in this room right now. You had to overcome barriers and walls and issues to get to that seat that you're sitting in right now. Whether it was the achievement of getting out of bed on time, which was a struggle for me, but you made it into the seat. You actually achieved something to get here, and like it can sound cheesy and corny saying, "Oh yeah, well, like every little thing's an achievement," but it's true. Every little thing's an achievement. Every line of code you write's an achievement. You know, when you do write that input form that collects users' information illegally, you still achieve something. Take risks. So, I was in the pub the other night, and I was talking to somebody who could be in here. We were talking about how it's like how poker players view their life as a series of bets, and it's kind of like, you know, you win some, you lose some. You have to like bet on life, you know, weigh up the odds, cost benefit analysis, all that kind of stuff. Look at life as a kind of betting system. You know, you don't win every bet. You know, make those bets on certain things, and you could go to one of those jockey meetups and maybe get some tips on which horses are doing great. But make those bets, make those chances. The ones that you win will outpay the ones that you lose. Like there's a software company in Belfast, so I can't name them obviously. They have a lot of projects that fail, and it's like 1 out of 10 is a success, but the one that succeeds outpays all the other ones. And then my last point is mentoring, which kind of seems a bit of like an oxymoron or a wrong thing to say, but the greatest way to get validation on your skills and abilities is to teach someone else. Be it a talk like this, a meetup, a blog post, a tweet, a video on YouTube, or actually physically mentoring one-to-one with someone. There was a lightning talk earlier, I can't remember the name of the person, and it was about teaching and how teaching can be so powerful and give you so much, the takeaways. And I was like, that is so true, that is so powerful. Teaching is a great way to kind of take your skills and give validation, saying like, I know what I'm doing, I can't be a fraud in this because I can teach it to someone else. And seeing that person absorb that information, it's just such a gratifying experience. And I kind of guess like I'm getting close to my time. The one kind of like line I always take is like, no matter what you kind of think you are and where you think you are in your like kind of tech career or whatever, we all follow different journeys to get to where we are. And this is going to sound so corny and cheesy. We all follow journeys to get to where we are, but at the same time, there's always someone, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 steps behind you, and they're going through the same experiences. They're finding the same bugs. They're trying to learn the same things. You can always give back to that person. No matter what, you aren't a fraud, you aren't an imposter. You made achievements to get where you are, and you can take those achievements and give them to someone else. So, thank you. And you can find my slides there, and that doesn't much on them. But yeah, I guess like if there's any questions, I can attempt to answer them.
Can I ask one actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have like a strategy for becoming better at accepting praise?
Okay, so yes, I'll repeat the questions for the recording. It's like, so do you have a strategy for accepting praise?
Yeah, becoming better at it.
I can't give you an answer because I'm still trying to go through it myself. But like, what I've been kind of take the approach of when someone does give you praise, like, yeah, you're going to get embarrassed, but kind of just have that, yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and kind of know, as long as you express that you appreciate and like accept the praise, the person still feels happy that they've given you the praise because all they want to do is make you happy, and you don't feel like you have to continue on with a, oh, but you did great too, kind of thing. Yeah.
Do you think there's like a problem in the tech industry? It's like, you know, rigid promotion structures and titles and stuff where people get very caught up with that and go, oh, that senior engineer is like 3 levels above me, or that lead is 2 levels above me, and it makes them think that their technical ability is, you know, completely kind of tangible based on your title. You know, it sounds like it kind of breeds imposter syndrome.
Yeah, so like, I'll repeat it for the video. Yeah, so like the question was like, do you think the promotional scales and the way people like titles and stuff affects tech and gives or encourages imposter syndrome? I can agree in some kind of ways. Like you have to have a structure, and I know some companies try like a very flat structure when it comes to the promotions and people's titles. But at the end of the day, like you kind of have to. There has to be some way to signify, like, okay, that's the go-to person. That's the guy who gets to make the decisions. Even though everyone should be doing it, like. But yeah, it can definitely help. I think some companies are a little bit broken when it comes to the promotional structure and how the hierarchy works and how they give people promotions. Like I see of some companies, like I call it like, the time effect. Do your time and get that title. You didn't earn it. Like after 3 years, I don't get like skills from the magical like tech fairy and then become a senior. You have to earn and show that ability. Yeah, if that answers your question. Yeah.
Do you think stuff like Twitter and like LinkedIn, when you see people posting stuff that you think is like way better than what you're doing, is it like kind of double-edged sword to help push you? Say you're kind of stuck in a rut and you see all this stuff and you're like, should I be doing that well? Push yourself to try and achieve that, like push further.
Yeah. So like the question was, does like social media like Twitter affect your perception of what you should be doing? 100%. Twitter can be the best place to learn something new and communicate with people in your industry. At the same time, it can be a toxic wasteland of negativity, and it's kind of having to identify those toxic people or accounts and just don't follow them. If you notice that there's some you follow, you do get information, they're constantly posting like, I built this new library, I built this new framework, and you're like, I suck because I can't even compile my code. Then don't follow. Or create a second account that you just check in every day to see the latest tech. But at the same time, someone else's achievement isn't your failure. If you think in that kind of sense, then you'll always be shooting for that success that'll never come, because no matter what, and like the way I was like, the thing is like, no matter who you are, what you do, someone in the world is better than you. But that's not a bad thing. Because if there wasn't someone better than you, then what's keeping you going? What's motivating you to do better? If you've reached the peak and you're the best there is, then you would just stop, I think. Yeah, one more if there's...
Is imposter syndrome something that is kind of confined to tech, or when you're doing your research, did you discover that it happened in other job spheres?
Yeah, so the question was, does imposter syndrome, is it like just tech or is it anywhere else? From what I found, it seems to be prevalent everywhere. I think in some other industries, it's more weighted towards like females or minorities because of just like say the business structure and like say like financial or medicine, that kind of thing. With tech, it seems to be across the board, which I find interesting. It doesn't matter who you are, like everyone seems to experience it. And I think the only kind of correlation I could have with that is like tech is such a connected industry and they're constantly sharing and showing each other stuff, whereas like financial firms or doctors aren't constantly tweeting the latest surgery stitch that they did and that kind of stuff. Or jockeys are doing something. Yeah, thank you.